On.
A New York police officer now out of the hospital after an ambush this morning in the Bronx. The officer was hit in the arm as several shots were fired there. One teenager is in custody, but police are still looking for two more people. Eyewitness News reporter Sonia Rincon in Belmont with the story. Sonia.
Yes.
And Joe, police have been looking at video and they say this was likely two groups of young people shooting at each other here on Prospect Avenue at around 3 in the morning. The officer was the only one who was struck. He was in an NYPD vehicle with other members of his public safety team from the 48th precinct. Their job is to come to blocks like this one that have seen a lot of violence and to try to get the guns off the streets. They managed to get one this morning and they made an arrest, but because this was two shooting incidents at the same time, the search continues for two other suspects and at least one other gun. Out of the hospital and on the mend, Officer Paul Lee let out of St. Barnabas by his partner and called a hero by his commanding officer at the 48 precinct.
He's got 3 years on the job. He's been roughly a month now. He's been part of our public safety unit.
The public safety teams like his are tasked with getting guns off the streets, and they target areas known for gang activity, like this corner of Prospect Avenue and East 183rd Street.
They've arrested multiple people for firearms at that location. They've made pickup arrests for robberies and such. I mean, that's their exact task.
They were patrolling at 3 in the morning in their vehicle when they spotted two young men.
As they pull up, at least one male fires at least 6 times, striking the windshield and our officer, who was seated in the passenger seat. He was struck in the left arm.
The other officers got out and chased down the suspect, who it turns out is only 16. Here they are taking him into custody. They recovered a .32 caliber gun and 6 casings. But before they even confronted him, someone else opened fire around the corner.
2 .380 shell casings are recovered at that scene. These shots, based on preliminary video, are not directed toward the pursuing officers.
For those who heard the gunshots,
it's almost like regular, normal.
It's like nerve-wracking, but at the same time, I'm picking up my own pace in my head. Like, I'm glad that's just not me at that hour out there.
Mark was worried a bullet would come through his window.
So we turned off all the lights in the house.
About how many do you think you heard?
Like, what, 4 or 5?
Officer Lee is the first NYPD cop shot on the job this year. As he was released this afternoon, the search continued for evidence and for the 2 other suspects.
We'll stop at nothing to ensure that these subjects involved in this shooting and the people who drive violence in this city will be brought to justice.
And the public safety teams are part of that dangerous work expected to continue here. Charges are still pending for the 16-year-old arrested, and neighbors here are not surprised to hear the suspect was that young. They say it's teenagers responsible for most of the crime here, and there are actually other neighborhood groups that look to promote alternatives for those teens, including one called Release the Grip, again looking to promote other alternatives to violence. Live